If you've been working with previous versions of Microsoft Windows, one of the utilities you've probably worked with is the most popular utility of all, Windows Explorer. Here in Windows 8, Windows Explorer has gone through a few changes, and we're going to start with a big one, which is a brand new ribbon interface. So to launch Explorer from here at our start screen, we could go directly to the desktop and load it up there. It's not a Metro style app, so that's where it's going to run anyway. Or if you have a tile here for Windows Explorer, as I'm calling it right now, you could access it or right-click anywhere on the desktop, select All Apps, where you will find Windows Explorer retitled. There it is, File Explorer. Notice the icon has remained the same, a yellow folder. We can click it from here. It's going to take us to our desktop and launch the Explorer app. Now, if we move down to our taskbar here, you'll see that it is running, and it's accessible here from the taskbar as well. So we could have just switched over to our desktop, click this icon, and get the exact same window. Now what you're probably seeing by default is a list of your library folders, documents, music, etc., showing up here with libraries selected. And we're going to take a look at some changes that have happened to this UI, beginning in the top left-hand corner. Here's what we call our Quick Access toolbar. You will see an icon representing Explorer that you can click to do things like minimize, maximize, even close it up from here. But then you're going to see some actual tools. A Properties tool, a New Folder button for creating new folders. I have a Delete button here that I've added. And how do I do that? By clicking the drop-down where you can pick and choose what's going to show up on your Quick Access toolbar. Clicking one that's already checked will remove it. Go back there, click something that's not checked, and it appears on the Quick Access toolbar. So it's up to you. You can totally customize that. That's not a big deal. Over on the right-hand side, we still have our minimize, maximize, and our close button for closing up the program. But what's really changed is right below this bar, and that is the ribbons. If yours is not expanded like mine, go to the top right corner and just left of the question mark help icon, click the expansion arrow that's currently pointing down. First, you're going to see a File menu tab, as well as tabs representing the different ribbons, the Home ribbon, Share, and View. Let's begin with the File tab. We'll give it a click. Now from here, you'll see file commands, like opening new windows. Here we have one that allows us to access the command prompt, the old DOS prompt you may have been familiar with in very early versions of Windows and before. We can also go to a delete history. So if you've been deleting files, here's where you go to see what has been deleted, but also here's where we can go to get them back. There is a help function, and you'll see when we move to help, anything with an arrow has more than one. Of course, the File Explorer here in Windows 8 is all about staying organized, allowing you to navigate through the various folders and files on your computer or any device connected to your computer. But you also have the ability to create your own folders, move files around, delete files and folders, things we're going to talk about right now. And you'll notice here I still have my exercise files folder open here in the File Explorer from the previous lesson. If you need to get caught up, you can go to the desktop and double-click your exercise files folder if that's where you put it. Otherwise, just go down to your taskbar at the very bottom of your screen. You'll find the File Explorer icon there. Give it a click and navigate to a folder of your choice. Right now, we're going to talk about what you see down the left-hand side of your screen. It's called the navigation pane. And you'll notice it's kind of grouped together with your favorites at the top. You'll see libraries, which are made up of various folders, something we'll talk about later on in this chapter. Then you might see home groups if you're connected, your computer, any hard drives, any removable drives that might be connected. You may also see some network connections. Every computer is going to be different, so you may not see exactly what I have. But the navigation techniques we're going to use are going to be the same. For example, if we want to go to our desktop, we click Desktop. And we're going to be looking at everything on our desktop over here on the right-hand side, including access to libraries and your computer. The only thing really that is on our desktop, if we were to look at it, is the recycle bin and the exercise files. The other options we see here are just added for your convenience. Let's say we want to go to the Downloads folder. Clicking it here under Favorites is going to show you all of the files you've been downloading. And this is where they go to by default. So you open up an email, there's an attachment, it's downloaded to the Downloads folder. Now if we want to go back, we can obviously just click the folders or libraries wherever we want to go, or we can use the navigation buttons that appear at the top. If you don't remember the last folder you were looking at, just click the back button and you'll see it's actually the desktop. Click it again and you'll see it's our exercise files. Now, if this is where we started, there's nowhere to go back, but you'll notice there is an arrow to take us up a level. So exercise files is actually part of the desktop. And here across the top, you can see it's also part of my user account folder under users on my hard drive. So I can navigate to it that way, or I can just use the up arrow to go up to the desktop. And you can see I also have the ability to click each of these settings here, each of these options by clicking take me directly to that location. So choosing my local disk, C drive, you can see it's now highlighted over here on the left, and I can navigate down through the various subfolders to get back to my exercise files. That's the long way. So probably if it's a folder you're going to use quite often, you might want to, here in Windows 8 using File Explorer, you have full control over how you view the various folders and files inside those folders and how those folders and files behave. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So if you're following along with me, we have our exercise files folder open. You can double click it wherever you stored it, such as the desktop, to open it up. And what you're going to see here is a default view for the various types of files contained in this folder. Because we have a mix of pictures, we have text files, we have music and video files here as well, what we're looking at is called the default view for details. We're seeing the names of the files. We're seeing the dates they were modified, the type of file, and we're also seeing the size of the file. Each of these columns has its own heading, and we can rearrange these. For example, if we click name, we're going to see an alphabetical listing by name. If we click name again, it's a reverse listing. Same thing goes for dates. If we click date modified, we can sort these by date. And if we click it again, we'll see the newest ones down to the oldest ones and then reverse that. We can also group them by type, and you can see all of our picture files are together, and we can do the same with size. What you may have noticed though is that there's a little drop down next to each of these column headings as we hover over them. And that allows us to filter out certain items. So if you have a huge list of files in a folder, you can filter it down to locate the file you're looking for. For example, if we go to size and click the drop down, I see a couple of checkboxes here. I have one for large and one for huge files. And of course, if you have many more files of varying sizes, you'll have more checkboxes here. If I only want to see the huge files, I click that checkbox. You can see it's all whittled down to a single file. Deselect that and go to large, and I'll see all of them except the huge files. Deselect that, and I'm looking at all of them. Let's just click anywhere in an empty space to turn that off. The same goes for dates. If we click the date drop down, it's going to look a little bit different. In this case, we're going to be looking at a calendar where we can select a date range by clicking a date and then using our shift key to select another date. And that becomes the range. And you can see one file was modified in that date range. You can deselect that and just narrow it down to files that were modified earlier this year, or just the files that were modified, looks like yesterday for me. So these are options that you can select from the drop downs on the column headings. Now we can also change the way we view things from the view menu up here on the ribbon. Notice in the layout section, details is selected, but if you want to look at this in a different view, such as a list, where you lose the details, you can just hover over it or click it like I did to actually select it. Now we can see actually more files if we had them without all of the details taking up space. If you were following along with me in the previous lesson, we explored a number of options here in File Explorer that would allow us to whittle down our list of files, making it easier for us to find the files we wanted to work with. Well, probably the best option for locating files is to use the built-in search functionality, and that's what we're going to look at right now. I'm going to use my exercise files folder. If you have them, you can use that, or choose any folder of your liking. If we want to find certain files, all we have to do is go to the search field, which appears over to the right-hand side of this window, and click. Look what happens to our ribbon. A new search tab appears, and we have a number of different options like locations, refinement properties, as well as options. We'll get to those momentarily. Right now, let's just type something in the search field. Let's say we're looking for the word easy. We type that in. You don't need to press enter or anything. It automatically displays results on the fly. and there's one file with the word easy in the name of the file. You can see it there, Easy for You. It's our MP3 music file. All right, let's click the X next to that to take away that search criteria, and we're back to viewing all of our files. Let's try another one. Let's type in this, SAMOCA. Now that doesn't appear in any of the names or titles of our files, but you'll notice the word Samoka is highlighted multiple times here inside our PDF file. So in our volunteer orientation letter, we do find the word Samoka multiple times, so we're able to search for contents of our files from here, not just the file names. All right, let's remove that search by clicking the X. And let's go back to our search tab now and take a look at some of the options. If you want to search your entire computer, you can do that by clicking Computer. Current folder would just be the folder we're looking at right now, exercise files. If there were subfolders, they wouldn't be included in our search. Or we can also choose to include subfolders if we have any. So we'll leave that selected. And now let's go to Date Modified. Now when we click this drop down, we can find files that were modified, let's say, within the last year. Let's click that. Well, it looks like no items match our search. You'll notice also in the search field that we see that criteria now, and it will stay there if we wanted to combine it with other criteria, but let's just close it up. Let's go to size this time. Click the drop down for size, and we'll go to, how about huge? Do we have any huge files? Yeah, we do. We have one. All right, let's close that up. Let's go back to size now. Click the drop down. Let's go to, how about large? So there are a number of large files. Let's combine this now with another criteria. How about the kind of file? Let's say we're only looking for large picture files. Well, in that case, we can go down to picture as a type or kind, and you can see we've whittled it down now to 3 files. Notice also in the search field, both of those criteria appear. And one really nice feature here in Windows 8 to help you stay organized with the various files and folders on your computer is something called libraries. It was introduced in Windows 7. It's also here in Windows 8, but it works a little bit differently in how we add things to our library. So that's what we're going to do right now. Now in the previous lesson, we added our exercise files to our favorites. And I'm going to show you where we can do that from the ribbon as well. But the exercise files contains different types of files. It contains some pictures, contains a text document, a video, contains a music file. As we move down the left-hand side in the navigation pane, we arrive at libraries. If we click that folder, and it looks like any other folder, you're going to see the contents over here on the right-hand side as well as beneath the libraries folder. These are the defaults: documents, music, pictures, and videos. What libraries are and how they differ from regular folders is they're simply references to other locations. For example, if we select documents, over here on the right-hand side, you'll see that documents under libraries is made up of the My Documents folder, which happens to be on the hard drive under users, and you'll see your own name. Also includes public documents, a different location. And we can add additional locations to this library. So if you have documents stored in many different locations, you can reference them all directly from the documents library by adding them to this library. Let's say we want to add our exercise files to the documents library. All we have to do is locate that folder. Mine is on the desktop, so I'm going to click desktop. Over here on the right-hand side, I find my exercise files folder. I'm going to select it. And now the quickest way is to go up to the ribbon in the new section here and click Easy Access. Now you'll notice a number of different options, including pinning it to the Start menu if we wanted to. We could also include it in the library. Which library? We go over to the right and select it. Notice also we can add to favorites from here and map it as a drive. But we want to include it in the Documents library, so as we move up to Include in Library and move over to the right, click Documents, and it stays in its original location. The files remain in the folder on the desktop. But as we move over to Documents now under Libraries and click there, you'll notice a new location's been added. And we have quick and easy access to, for example, our text document here. So they all reside in their original locations, but they're easily accessible and referenced here in the Documents library. In fact, if we wanted to, we could add the exercise files folder to another library as well. Since there are pictures in there, let's add it to the Pictures folder. Again, we'll go back to the location where our exercise files are located, mine on the desktop, select the folder. Let's go back up again to Easy Access, include in library, and we'll include it in the pictures library as well. So now it's included in 2 different libraries. If we go down to pictures, we see it there as well. When it comes to moving and copying your files here in File Explorer in Windows 8, there are some functions that will simplify your life when performing these types of tasks, and we're going to take a look at them now. Let's say, for example, we want to back up the files in our exercise files folder. I've selected it over here in the navigation pane. Really, you could work with any folder and any files if you don't have the exercise files. And if we wanted to back these up, it would mean copying them to another location. So all we need to do is choose that location. If it exists, we can do it all from one window. We don't need a second window. We don't need to click and drag selected files using a booster key like the Alt key to copy and not move. Don't worry about it. We can do it all from here, and that's exactly what we're going to do. But first, we're going to create a new folder that we're going to copy these to. And it's going to be on the desktop. So let's click Desktop. Now we can go up to the ribbon, click New Folder. As long as the Home tab selected here in the New section, you can click a New Folder and just type in Backup. Notice it types right over the new folder name that appeared by default. Press Enter, and we now have a new folder on our desktop. It's empty. Now if we want to get the files from our exercise files folder into there, we just go back to the exercise files, select the ones we want to back up. If it's all of them, just click the first one, hold down Shift and click the last one. They're all selected. Notice there's also a Select All button up here in the Select section of the Home tab ribbon. So from here, with our files selected, we go back to the Organize section now and click Copy To. And if you see the location called Backup on this list, you would select it, but we don't. So we need to go down to the bottom and click Choose Location. And under Desktop is where you'll find Backup. We'll make sure that's selected. It shows up as the folder, and all we need to do now is click Copy. Now, it won't take very long. It's not many files. They're not huge. If they were, and it did take a lot of time to copy or back up these files, you might even see a pause button, an opportunity to pause the copy, go do something else to free up resources, and then come back to copying. And it's a nice little feature that's new here in Windows 8. But these were very quick. They're in the backup folder now. So what happens if we were to change one of the files in our exercise files and try to back up again? That's the real beauty here of File Explorer. So let's go back to the exercise files. And let's say we wanted to open up Swatch. Well, all we're going to do is right-click Swatch. We could use Open, which will automatically just open it up in a viewer. That's not exactly what we want to do. We want to work with this file and make a change to it. So as we move a little further down this pop-up menu, you can see we can open it with, there it is, Photos, there's the viewer. We could even choose the default program, but let's just choose Paint. So it's going to open up the Paint program, and there's our swatch. Now right now we